It was a scorching July morning in suburban Springfield, and Sarah, a passionate but often disheartened gardener, stood surveying her tomato patch. Her dreams of plump, ruby-red tomatoes were fading fast. Instead of the bountiful harvest she envisioned, she saw spindly vines, yellowing leaves, and small, anemic fruits that looked more like decorative berries than edible tomatoes. She had tried everything the internet suggested, from expensive fertilizers to elaborate watering schedules, but nothing seemed to work. A sigh escaped her lips as she gently poked a sad-looking early girl tomato. Sarah had pictured overflowing baskets, fresh caprese salads, and jars of homemade salsa. But her reality was a far cry from the glossy gardening magazine covers. Every morning, she'd check the vines with a mix of hope and dread, only to be met with disappointment. She loved the idea of growing her own food, feeling the soil between her fingers, and nurturing life. But these tomatoes were testing her patience, making her wonder if her thumb was truly green, or perhaps a rather dull shade of brown. Just 2 houses down, lived Eleanor, an octogenarian with a garden that was the envy of the entire neighborhood. Eleanor's tomatoes weren't just big, they were colossal, vibrant, and incredibly abundant. Every year, her porch was practically buried under a mountain of ripe fruit. Sarah often saw Eleanor tending her garden, humming softly, her movements slow but deliberate. There had to be a secret, a missing piece to the tomato puzzle that Eleanor held. One sweltering afternoon, Sarah decided she couldn't take it anymore. Taking a deep breath, Sarah walked over to Eleanor's fence. "Eleanor," she called out, trying to sound casual despite her inner turmoil, "your tomatoes are just unbelievable." "Mine are, well, a bit pathetic this year." Eleanor, wiping her brow with a gloved hand, chuckled softly. "Oh, dear, everyone thinks that until they know the trick." Sarah's ears perked up. This was it. The moment of truth. "A trick?" Sarah asked, her voice filled with newfound hope. "Is it a special soil? A rare variety?" Eleanor leaned against her trowel, a twinkle in her eye. "No rare varieties, dear, just good old-fashioned understanding of what a tomato plant truly craves. And a little homemade magic." Homemade magic? Sarah was intrigued. She had expected a complicated explanation, maybe some exotic fertilizer she'd have to order from across the globe. But homemade magic sounded entirely different. Eleanor invited Sarah in for a glass of iced tea, ready to impart decades of gardening wisdom. And that's where our story truly begins, delving into the very heart of what makes tomato plants tick. Before we dive into Eleanor's secret mix, let's quickly understand the fundamental needs of any plant, especially a hungry fruiting one like a tomato. Just like humans need a balanced diet, plants need specific nutrients. The big 3, often found on fertilizer labels, are nitrogen and phosphorus P and potassium K, collectively known as NPK. Think of them as the macronutrients, essential for overall plant health. But why do we need them, and what happens if they're missing? Nitrogen is like the spinach of the plant world. It's crucial for lush, green, leafy growth. If your plants have pale, yellowing leaves, especially the older ones, they might be crying out for nitrogen. However, too much nitrogen can be a problem too. It encourages beautiful foliage at the expense of fruit production, making your tomato plants look like a jungle but yielding few actual tomatoes. It's all about balance, and Sarah's plants were definitely out of whack. Phosphorus is the architect of strong root systems and the spark for flowering and fruit development. If your plants have weak root growth, stunted development, or fail to produce many flowers and fruits, phosphorus might be the culprit. It's often associated with vibrant blooms and robust fruiting, which is exactly what Sarah's tomatoes were lacking. Without enough P, those delicate blossoms might never turn into juicy tomatoes. Potassium is the ultimate multitasker. It helps with overall plant vigor, disease resistance, and the quality of fruits. Think of it as the immune booster for your plants. A potassium deficiency can show up as yellowing or browning along the edges of older leaves, or poor fruit quality and size. It's vital for a plant's metabolic processes and helps regulate water uptake, ensuring juicy, flavorful tomatoes. Eleanor knew exactly how important this unsung hero was. Beyond NPK, plants also need micronutrients, tiny amounts of elements like magnesium, calcium, boron, and iron. While needed in smaller quantities, they are just as critical. Imagine a car. NPK are the engine, wheels, and chassis, but micronutrients are the oil, spark plugs, and electronics. Without them, the car won't run efficiently, or at all. Eleanor understood that Sarah's plants likely weren't just missing NPK, but also some of these vital trace elements. Back on Eleanor's porch, the iced tea clinked as she explained. "Sarah, your problem isn't lack of effort, it's lack of understanding what those tomatoes are really asking for. Most commercial fertilizers focus heavily on NPK, but they often miss some critical micronutrients. And some of those store-bought options can actually do more harm than good." She paused, taking a sip. "My secret isn't a secret at all, just a simple mix of things you probably already have at home. Things that give the plants what they truly crave." Eleanor started with a familiar name. "First, we'll talk about Epsom salts." Sarah frowned. "Epsom salts? For bathing, right?" Eleanor smiled. "Exactly. But it's also a powerhouse for plants. Epsom salts are hydrated magnesium sulfate. Magnesium is a vital micronutrient for chlorophyll production, that's what makes plants green, and it's essential for photosynthesis, how plants convert sunlight into food. Sulfur also aids in nutrient uptake." Sarah felt a spark of understanding. Her yellowing leaves, magnesium deficiency. Beyond just greening up leaves, magnesium also plays a crucial role in fruit development. It helps plants absorb other important nutrients like phosphorus and nitrogen more efficiently, indirectly boosting fruit yield and even improving flavor. Think of it as a catalyst, making everything else work better. Many soils, especially those that have been gardened intensively, can become depleted of magnesium. A simple application of Epsom salts can quickly rectify this imbalance. Next, Eleanor continued, "We need calcium. And what's a common household item full of calcium?" She gestured towards Sarah's coffee mug. Sarah looked down, then back up. "Eggshells?" Eleanor nodded approvingly. "Bingo! Eggshells are almost pure calcium carbonate. Calcium is essential for strong cell walls, preventing issues like blossom end rot, which is common in tomatoes. It also helps with root development and overall plant structure." Sarah remembered a few of her sad tomatoes with dark sunken bottoms. The beauty of eggshells is that they provide a slow and steady release of calcium into the soil as they break down. This avoids a sudden flush that might upset the plant's balance. It's like a time-release vitamin for your tomatoes. Grinding them finely speeds up this process. Plus, the sharp edges of crushed eggshells can even deter slugs and snails, adding another layer of protection for your precious plants. A win-win for both plant health and pest control. Eleanor then picked up a banana from a fruit bowl. And for that vital potassium we discussed earlier, nothing beats a banana peel. Sarah's eyes widened. "Really? I just throw those away." "Exactly," Eleanor exclaimed. "A huge waste. Banana peels are packed with potassium, even more than the fruit itself. Potassium boosts flowering, fruit setting, and disease resistance. They also contain small amounts of calcium, magnesium, and phosphorus, making them a fantastic all-rounder for overall plant health. Potassium from banana peels doesn't just help with setting fruit, it also plays a critical role in the ripening process, ensuring your tomatoes develop their full flavor and vibrant color." Ever had a tomato that looked ripe but tasted bland? Lack of potassium could be a reason. Plus, as the peels break down, they add valuable organic matter to your soil, improving its structure and water retention. It's a natural, sustainable way to feed your plants. And finally, Eleanor concluded, holding up a bag of spent coffee grounds. Sarah, a daily coffee drinker, had a literal light bulb moment. "My morning coffee. Indeed. Eleanor beamed. Coffee grounds add a gentle dose of nitrogen, which is great for leafy growth, but in a balanced way that won't overdo it for fruiting plants. They also slightly acidify the soil, which tomatoes often appreciate, and attract earthworms, nature's best soil aerators and nutrient transporters. Beyond their nutritional benefits, coffee grounds contribute to improved soil structure, enhancing drainage in heavy clays and water retention in sandy soils. They essentially act as a fantastic soil conditioner. And here's another bonus: some gardeners find that the strong scent of coffee grounds can help deter certain pests, like slugs and even cats, from disturbing young plants. So, that morning ritual can benefit your garden too. Sarah now had the 4 ingredients: Epsom salts, eggshells, banana peels, and coffee grounds. But how to put them together? Eleanor explained, the beauty is in the simplicity and flexibility. There's no single rigid recipe, but rather a method. This isn't baking a cake, dear, it's nurturing life. She laid out the general approach, emphasizing consistency over perfection. This was a continuous feeding program, not a one-time miracle cure. Patience, she stressed, was also a key ingredient. Eleanor started with the eggshells. First, collect your eggshells. Rinse them thoroughly to remove any egg residue, then let them dry completely. You can bake them at a low temperature for about 10 to 15 minutes to sterilize them and make them more brittle. Sarah jotted this down. Then, crush them as finely as possible. A mortar and pestle works, or a coffee grinder you use only for garden materials. Finer particles break down faster, releasing calcium more quickly. Next, the banana peels. You have a few options here, Eleanor said. You can simply chop them into small pieces and bury them directly in the soil around your plants. Or, for a quicker nutrient release, you can blend them with a little water to make a banana peel smoothie to use as a liquid feed. Even better, you can dry them out in the sun or a low oven, then grind them into a powder, just like the eggshells, for a dry, storable amendment. Epsom salts and coffee grounds are the easiest, Eleanor explained. The Epsom salts are already in their ready-to-use form. Just make sure you get plain Epsom salts, not scented bath salts. As for coffee grounds, simply collect them after brewing. You can spread them fresh or let them dry out a bit if you prefer. She smiled. The key is to integrate them into your regular gardening routine. It's about consistency, not a one-off application. For a general dry amendment to work into the soil, Eleanor instructed, you can combine your finely ground eggshells and dried, ground banana peels. A good ratio might be 1 part eggshell powder to 1 part banana peel powder. For every plant, you'd add about 1 to 2 tablespoons of this mix. Then, sprinkle a tablespoon of fresh or dried coffee grounds and about a teaspoon of Epsom salts around the base. Sarah's notepad was filling up. This was a clear action plan. For a quicker boost, especially if your plants are looking particularly sad, Eleanor suggested, you can create a liquid feed. This involved dissolving 1 to 2 tablespoons of Epsom salts in a gallon of water, and if you have that banana peel smoothie, you can add about half a cup of that too. This can be used as a soil drench or even a foliar spray early in the morning or late in the evening, she added. Sarah realized this was the equivalent of a plant energy drink. Timing is everything, Eleanor emphasized. For established plants, apply the dry mix every 4 to 6 weeks during the growing season. For seedlings, a very dilute liquid feed, half strength, can be used after they've established their first true leaves, maybe once every 2 to 3 weeks. The liquid feed can be applied as needed, perhaps once a month, or if you notice signs of stress, for a quick pick-me-up. Sarah mentally marked her calendar. When applying the dry mix, Eleanor instructed, gently scratch it into the top inch or 2 of soil around the base of the plant, being careful not to disturb the roots. Water thoroughly afterward to help the nutrients begin breaking down and soaking in. For the liquid feed, she advised, either water the base of the plant until the soil is moist, or use a sprayer for foliar application. Remember to spray leaves in the early morning or late evening to prevent leaf burn and allow for maximum absorption. Armed with Eleanor's wisdom and a renewed sense of purpose, Sarah raced home. She collected eggshells, saved banana peels, and gathered her spent coffee grounds. That evening, she carefully rinsed and dried the eggshells, then fired up her coffee grinder. The next morning, she meticulously prepared the dry mix and applied it to her struggling tomato plants, followed by a gentle watering. 3 weeks later, Sarah was stunned by the change. Her plants looked healthier. The yellowing on the lower leaves had begun to recede, replaced by a darker, richer green. New growth at the top of the plants looked robust and vigorous. More importantly, she noticed a significant increase in flower production. Delicate yellow blossoms, which had been so sparse before, now dotted the vines with promise. Sarah felt a surge of hope, a feeling she hadn't experienced in her garden all season. Eleanor's homemade magic was actually working. For weeks after her initial application, Sarah made another batch. This time, she used a banana peel liquid feed as a quick booster, targeting her plants with the rich potassium. She also crushed more eggshells for continuous calcium. She was diligent, consistent. And then, the true miracle began. The small, sad fruits she had previously observed were starting to swell, and crucially, the dreaded blossom end rot that had plagued some of her earlier tomatoes was completely absent on the new fruits. This was a clear sign of sufficient calcium. By late August, Sarah's tomato patch was unrecognizable. It was a jungle of verdant green, laden with clusters of heavy, ripe tomatoes. Early Girl was living up to its name, producing plump, juicy fruits. Her Roma plants were overflowing, promising an abundance for canning. She picked her first truly ripe, vibrant red tomato, warm from the sun, and bit into it. The flavor was incredible, sweet, tangy, and bursting with that unmistakable garden-fresh taste. This was the harvest she had always dreamed of. A few days later, Sarah brought a basket overflowing with her magnificent tomatoes to Eleanor's porch. "Eleanor," she beamed, "it worked. Your magic truly worked." Eleanor smiled, a knowing glint in her eyes. "It wasn't magic, dear. It was simply giving your plants what they craved, in a way that was natural and sustainable. You listened to them." Sarah now understood. Gardening wasn't just about following instructions, it was about understanding life, and providing it with the right tools to thrive. While our story focused on tomatoes, this homemade mix isn't just for them. Many other fruiting vegetables like peppers, squash, and even berry bushes can benefit from these natural amendments. The principles of providing essential macro and micronutrients remain the same across a wide variety of garden plants. Always observe your plants, understand their specific needs, and adjust your feeding schedule accordingly. This knowledge is transferable, unlocking a healthier garden all around. Even with the best intentions, sometimes plants still struggle. If your plants aren't responding, first check your watering. Over or under watering can mimic nutrient deficiencies. Next, consider soil pH. Tomatoes prefer slightly acidic to neutral soil, 6.0 to 6.8. A soil test kit can help. Remember, these organic amendments work over time, improving soil health. Be patient, observe, and adjust. Sometimes it's a combination of factors, not just one thing. So, how does Eleanor's homemade mix stack up against store-bought commercial fertilizers? It's a great question, and the answer lies in understanding their fundamental differences. Commercial fertilizers often offer precise NPK ratios and quick release, but can be synthetic, potentially harming soil microbiology and often lacking in the full spectrum of micronutrients. Homemade mixes, while slower, nurture the soil ecosystem, provide a broader range of gentle, natural nutrients, and are sustainable and cost-effective. If you're really getting into organic gardening, there are even more fantastic kitchen scraps you can use. Think about collecting vegetable scraps for compost, or making compost tea from worm castings. Even wood ash, from untreated wood, in moderation, can add potassium and trace minerals. The world of homemade plant food is vast and exciting. Each addition works to create a thriving soil ecosystem, which is the foundation of robust, healthy plants. Beyond just healthier plants, choosing homemade, organic amendments has a significant positive environmental impact. You reduce waste by repurposing kitchen scraps, decrease your reliance on chemically intensive products, and contribute to a more sustainable gardening practice. Every eggshell saved, every banana peel buried, is a step towards a greener planet, starting right in your own backyard. It's a small change with a big ripple effect. Sarah's journey from frustration to abundance is a testament to the power of understanding and working with nature. She didn't need expensive chemicals or complicated systems, she needed simple knowledge and a consistent approach. Her tomato patch became a symbol of patience, observation, and the incredible generosity of the earth when nurtured correctly. Her confidence blossomed right alongside her plants, proving that anyone can become a green thumb with the right insights. Now it's your turn to experience the magic. Gather your humble kitchen scraps, follow Eleanor's wisdom, and watch your tomato plants transform. Your garden, and your taste buds, will thank you. What other homemade plant foods have you tried? Share your tips and tricks in the comments below. We'd love to hear about your gardening success stories. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more gardening wisdom, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure.